Hello dear students, how are you? I hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss a new chapter of class 6 science, and that is light, shadows and reflection. So what we'll study in this chapter? Let us see. So here in this chapter we'll talk about various types of substances like transparent, translucent and opaque objects. Then we'll see what exactly are shadows and how these shadows are formed, a pinhole camera and mirrors and reflection. Few more things about light that we'll discuss in this chapter. So are you ready children? Let's start. So here let me ask one thing. If I ask you, have you ever tried to see in dark light? That means suppose you are in a dark room, there is no light. Can you see something? No, you cannot see in light. There are so many things that we see all around us. You can see tree, you can see your table, chair, pen, book, copy, your computer, your phone. Number of things you can see. But when there is no light at night, there is completely dark. Can you see any of such object? No, we cannot see. Once you switch on the light and now everything is visible. So what is basically this thing? If I tell you that this is light which is necessary to see an object. So when I ask you, what are the sources of light? From where do I get light? Let us see. So here we are having sunlight, that is a good natural source of light. We have candle, so that also illuminates light. So these are certain good sources of light. Along with that, we have laser light, you may have bulb in your home, you may have tube light. So there are different types of light and these are basically the sources of light. So let us see the another topic, that is types of object. So when we talk about types of object, on what basis we have classified? So we have classified whether they produce their own light or not. So we are having two types of object, luminous and non-luminous. So when we talk about luminous object, we say that these are the objects that produce their own light, like sun. Sun is the natural source of light. Candle, laser, bulb, tube light, all these are the luminous objects. Why? Because they are good source of light and they emit light, they produce light. So such objects are known as luminous objects. Let us move and discuss another category, non-luminous object. When I talk about the non-luminous object, means they do not produce light of their own. That means they do not emit any light of their own. They are not the sources of light. So if they are not the source of light, then the question comes that how we can see such non-luminous object? So like you can see your pen, paper, pencil, copy, book, your table, tree, number of things you can see and none of them can emit light. So the thing is, such non-luminous objects we can see easily because when light falls on it, then they reflect. So we see object when light falls on it and it gets reflected and it comes to our eyes, we can see such objects. So how it takes place, we'll continue and we'll discuss in the chapter. So let's move further and talk about a new and interesting thing, mirror. You all have seen face or image in the mirror. So what will happen when light falls on it? You can see when light falls on this mirror, complete reflection takes place and thus it produces image. So basically what mirror is? Mirror is some glass that is coated from the back side with a shiny surface of shiny substance, like generally we polish it with silver salts. So we take silver and polish the other side of the glass and it becomes a shiny surface. It is so shiny that the light when falls on mirror, it starts reflecting, and once the complete reflection of light takes place, we can see our image in the mirror. Similarly, you can take an example of spoon. You can see, try to see your face in the spoon. The inner side, the outer side, that means the front side and the back side. What you will observe? You will observe your face, you will observe your image on the spoon also. Why? Because it is also polished. But a very clear image, as we see in the case of mirror, we cannot find in the case of spoon. So why this is so? Because the light falls on it get completely reflected, and thus it forms a very fine and sharp image. Let us see further what will happen. So, we'll talk about shadows. What exactly are shadows? So, you must have seen shadows and you are trying to make different types of shadow images, taking your hands or your paper or your copy near to the source of light, and you'll see that yes, some image. Even during assembly in the morning in school, when light falls on you, you can find some image on the ground. So, what is this? This is nothing but shadow. So, what will happen when light falls on an object? We may have different possibilities. It may reflect light, it may absorb light, it may transmit light. So, in some cases, there are certain objects where there is the shadow formation observed. The shadow formation takes place. So, shadow is formed when light falls on an object. We get shadow. What will happen? Suppose I give you or I ask you to see through a window, glass window. So, there are different type of objects. They behave differently when light falls on it. Suppose if I say you to go to see through the glass, a glass window might be, what will happen? You can easily see the other side of the glass. But if I tell you to see the other side of the wall without any hole or without any partition, so can you see the other side of the object from the wall? We cannot see. Suppose I give you butter paper and tell you to see and what will happen and what is going on the other side, can you tell me? You'll see through the butter paper and then say, yes, we can see something blur on the other side, but we cannot see clearly. So, on the basis of the availability or seeing of an object on the other side of that screen or that object, we are having three major categories, namely transparent substance, translucent objects and opaque objects. So, what are these three? Let us discuss one by one. So, first let us talk about opaque object. Basically, what opaque object is? When I talk about opaque object, I say that they do not allow light to pass through it. That means when light falls on it, it completely blocks the light and doesn't allow to go on the other side. As I give you an example of wall. This wall doesn't allow, suppose there is a wall and you pass light on this side, the light cannot pass on the other side as it is solid thick wall, or I should say it is an opaque object. So, through an opaque object we cannot see the other side because it blocks light completely. So, there are certain examples like wall, like metal, like wood. These are certain examples through which light cannot pass and thus they block light and we cannot see the other part or other side of these objects. Let us discuss the another category, that is transparent object. So, when we talk about transparent object, we can say that yes, these are the substances which allow light to pass through them very easily, and a very good example is glass window. So, there is suppose glass window, you can see when light passes through it, you can see easily the other side of this glass. So, that is glass window. That means we can see the other side very clearly. You may have a magnifying glass, that is also a transparent object. You may have your glass in which you drink water, you can see what is there in the glass. If your mom suppose gives you ruah afza or tea or coffee in this glass, you can easily identify, yes, what this glass has. Is it having ruah afza or normal water or some tea or coffee? Because this glass is transparent object. Similarly, some plastics, very thin plastic or polythene are also transparent and you can see very easily from the other side of this object. So, I hope transparent object is clear to you. That means such objects through which or around which or the other side of which we can see the object clearly. And let us now discuss the third type of object, that is translucent object. And here you can see certain examples, the frosted glass, then the butter paper. When you try to see the other side of the butter paper, you can see few things, but the blur image you will be watching and you will not be able to see the object or the image, the things clearly on the other side. So basically what translucent is? They partially allow light to pass through them. That means complete light cannot pass through, and at the same time it does not block light to the complete. That means it allows some light to pass through and it blocks some light. That means we can see the other side, but something in unclear image have been obtained. So good examples are butter paper, some frosted glass, even some thick plastics and ice. That is also an example of translucent object. So I hope these types of objects are clear to you all. Let us see what is next in this chapter. So let us do an activity, and this is very interesting. You all are doing it every day in the morning. You look into the mirror and what you will see? Your beautiful, good, smiling face in the mirror if you behave like that. Basically, what will happen? When you see through a mirror, you can see your image. If I ask you what type of object it is it transparent, translucent or opaque? So transparent means we can see the other side. Can we see through this mirror? No. Translucent, we can see the other side but some unclear image. Can we see? No. Opaque, we cannot see the other side of the object. So this is an opaque object. So yes, your mirror is an opaque object because it doesn't allow light to pass through it. Rather, it reflects the light completely, and because of that complete reflection, we can see a clear and sharp image in the mirror. So your mirror is an opaque object. Let us see, what about your body? When light falls on your body, you will find some shadow. Why this shadow has been formed? Because your body is an opaque object and it doesn't allow the light to pass through it. That means your body blocks the light completely, and once the light doesn't come, this body, this shape has blocked the light completely, and thus we get only the shadow of this object or the body. So basically again, we human beings are opaque because we also have the tendency to block the light and we cannot see through the body like transparent objects and translucent objects we generally see through. So again, our body is an opaque object. Let's move further. So shadows of animals hidden in your hand. A very interesting activity, and you try it at home. Take a source of light, that means a bulb, and try to take your hand near it or make some source of light like candle on a table and try to make different images. Make sure your shadow will always be formed on some screen. So there should be some wall also around it. So whenever you try to make different images, you will get different type of shadows. So try to make birds, try to make deer, try to make different type of animals by using your hand and finger movements. Interesting? So definitely please do that. Let's move further. Types of light. When we talk about types of light, so I first ask you how light behaves. So it depends on the nature of object. It depends on the nature of medium. Like the object is transparent or translucent or opaque, then light falls in it. Will it absorb completely or it get reflected? So when I talk about like mirror, so I know that mirror reflects light completely. So I say yes, it is an opaque object as we have just seen in an activity. So basically, if I ask you what light is, so now I can say yes, it is a form of energy which helps us, which enables us to see the things around us. Without light, we cannot see. Do you know what is the speed of light? Yes, light travels with a very fast speed in air or in vacuum, and that is 3 × 10⁸ meter per second. And this is a very fast speed of light. So how does light travel? So basically when I talk about any source of light, like suppose I take candle or sunlight, I observe that the light comes and passes only in a straight line. So now if I ask you what light is, so generally we say that yes, light is a form of energy. So it is a form of energy which helps us, which enables us to see the things all around us. So now it is clear that light is something, the energy, and without light we cannot see any object. Though other things are also important, like our eyes and brain to identify and see the things, but yes, light is also one of the important things. So it is nothing but a form of energy with which we can see any object. Do you know the speed of light? It travels very fast. The speed of light is 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meter per second in vacuum or in air. So when we talk about the speed of light, it is very high. Let's move further. This is one of the very important characteristic of light, that light always travels in straight line. Here you can see a person is seeing the light from candle using a straight pipe. What will happen if suppose she is using a curved line or curved pipe? Will she be able to see the object or that light? No. The light passes as it travels in straight line. So if you are having only a straight pipe, then only you can see the object, you can see the light coming from this luminous object or from this candle. So a very important property is light travels in straight line, and for this let me give you one activity. You take 4 cards and make a hole in all these 4 cards in a proper line and arrange them in a sequence, and place a candle in such a way so that light passes through all these holes, and the other side you can see the light coming through these holes from the candle. Now you can see that light you can see on the other side, it comes only through these holes. Now if you try to tilt one of the card, say second card from the candle, you tilt it, and then you try to see the object or the light from the other side after the 4th card, will you be able to see that light? No. That makes that light always travels in straight line. Now how we can see the object? Let us talk about. There is a mirror and we can see the image, the reflection. So now the question is, what reflection of light is? So when I ask you reflection, it says that it is the bouncing back of a ray of light. That means when light or ray of light passes on an object, and if that object has a tendency to reflect the light, then we observe that that object reflects light. That means it bounces back the light when a light strikes on the surface. So basically when it strikes a boundary between different media through which it travels, suppose a light passes from air to water, we observe that it cannot pass. We observe that there is some bending takes place. Clear? So basically what reflection is? Reflection is bouncing back of ray of light when it strikes a boundary between different media. Suppose I try to pass light through air and it strikes the wall. Will you be able to see the light on the other side? When it passes through different media, might be if it is wall it cannot pass, right? So if it will not pass the other side, I say that yes, that object, that other media where the light strikes is an opaque object. So like mirror where light comes and bouncing back. So this mirror is an opaque. Clear? So this is reflection. So reflection is nothing but the bouncing back of any ray of light when it strikes on opaque object or shiny object. Now the thing is, how do we see things around us? So very important, very interesting thing is we require our eyes to see the object. So what will happen? Suppose there is a book in front of you, non-luminous. The thing is how we can see that book. So what will happen? Light coming from any source, say it may be bulb or tube light in your room, and it when strikes on this object, say your book, then that object means your book reflect light. And when this reflected light reaches our eye, then only I can see that object and our brain can identify, yes, this is nothing but book. So this is how we can see the things all around us. So now let us talk about the next topic, that is pinhole camera. So what pinhole camera is? You can see the image here. Let us see what pinhole camera is. So pinhole camera, when I talk about, it is used to see the object and consider the characteristic of light that it travels in straight line. How to make it? So it is basically, you can see there are two boxes. The one box which is having one aperture or tiny hole in it, a single tiny aperture or hole in the outer box. When you pierce a single hole, very small hole on this outer box, what are you supposed to do? On the other side, you will take another box with a window. You cut a small window so that when light comes through this small hole, passes through this window, then we get the image on the opposite side of this box. So what are you supposed to do is, you are supposed to take one box whose one side is open, make a hole, take another box which is a little bit smaller than the bigger box, and then try to fit this in this bigger box with an open window, so that when light enters through this pinhole, we'll get the image on the other side of box. So this is how we can explain characteristics of light, and we can make our own pinhole camera. So this is pinhole camera, try to make. So this is very interesting activity. So this all about is the chapter. So in this chapter we have studied about various types of light, various types of object, how it behaves on different type of object in different medium, what are transparent, translucent, opaque objects. And we have learned how to make different interesting images using our finger and hands. So try it at your home and please do questions. Thank you so much.